All right, CNT120, Chapter 2, we are working on the section on monitoring our environment and then documentation. So we talked infrastructure, we talked pieces and parts. Now as we talk a little bit more details about our building, in our closets, we actually need to do some monitoring. So, thinking about your MDF and your IDF, I need to have some monitoring in there so I know if there's any sort of problems. So I need to have things like sensors on the wall, if you will. They're going to let me know if the temperature is too hot. Because, if a closet gets too hot, things like servers and switches start overheating and failing and shutting off. So I would need to know temperature in there, humidity levels. If things are too humid, things start corroding and maybe even shorting out. Airflow conditions, if I don't have proper airflow on my fans, things are going to get too hot. Power failures, if I have power failures, I need to know that so I know that UPSs are kicking in, generators need to kick in, etc., etc. So I need to have ways of knowing this. Well, luckily there's products out there that will monitor these things and alert me with either text or email messages that a certain condition has occurred in the closet. Maybe it's a heat or humidity or power or something. There's a company out there, IT Watchdog, that makes all kinds of different sensors for temperature, light, humidity, airflow, doors, smoke, all kinds of power failures, water leaks, and they come in a series of, I just grabbed one or two just to give the idea. There's a temperature and humidity sensor that can be mounted on the wall. This can be plugged into switches and things and let you know if there's a failure. They even make a wireless section of these that would you can mount them almost anywhere. Then wireless can connect to your network and let you know. Airflow ones, these would be mounted maybe where your servers are to let you know whether the temperature in there is getting too hot. These things are not getting cooled, etc. So I need to have some gear like this so I know what's going on. I also need to have some sensors for security of my room, and that's where they showed you I would have some video and door positions, whether the door is open. I need to know those conditions in my closets too, because again, your building starts getting large and you might have multiple buildings. You can't be every place at once, so I need some of these sensors to help me to know whether there's any particular issues. So there's a little bit about monitoring, especially your closets in your building, your data closets, MDF, IDF kind of thing. Now, with my documentation, we mentioned a little bit before, we're going to dig in a little bit deeper now. Having this documentation is key for maintaining my network and eventually for troubleshooting. If I have a good diagram of my closet, my racks and my switches and my patch panels, and somebody calls them with a problem, I might be able to look at my picture and go, well, then we need to start looking at this piece of equipment or this particular port or this particular link light to know more of what's going on. And to do that, I need some good diagrams, network diagrams. I need a diagram showing different things like the physical layout of my network, logical topology, IP address, devices, media, that way I can consult them to help me with problems and troubleshooting. Now, my network diagrams are often a product of network mapping. If my entire network can fit in one closet, I could stand there with a piece of paper or a computer program and draw my network map. But when it starts getting over multiple closets and multiple floors and multiple buildings, it's tough to capture all that. So they actually make software out there that helps me with network mapping. It literally goes out and tries to find what it can about different devices and starts building that in some kind of map for me. There's a freebie program out there called Nmap, network mapping, that can do some of that for you. You actually set this up to run against a certain device, maybe a server or something, or a router or firewall. It goes and tries to learn everything it can about it, and there is a series of tabs of information you get after you run this, and some of that can actually be a topology, starting to give me information about connections and things that I have. This is part of my process. I can use things like this to start helping me map my network. And there's other data programs out there too, actually other applications out there that'll help you learn what's in your network and give you information. So I can use a couple different programs to start gathering. I start combining that with what I know, and then I also start putting that into some network diagramming applications to start building maps of my network. This connects to this, this connects to this, this connects to this. This is a real simple program called Dia. This actually started off in Linux and it got ported to Apple and Windows and that sort of thing. It actually has in a series of icons for routers and switches that I can connect together and make maps. Here is draw.io. This is one that I'm going to have you guys use later this semester when we do a little network design. We're going to make a little network map using these kind of icons and connecting together to show a network. eDraw is another one out there. Again, it has all kinds of your network icons, and I can actually connect the dots, if you will. Here is SmartDraw. This is another one that's out there too. There's all kinds of network diagramming programs out there to help me do this, so I don't have to create things on my own. And Microsoft Visio. Microsoft Visio is kind of the go-to for most businesses. But it can be kind of costly for you and I, or small people, to do this. I should say small businesses. I shouldn't say small people, small businesses to do this. So a lot of people use some of these other programs because they're inexpensive or free. But Visio is kind of the default that most companies or businesses use. The network diagrams typically use a standard set of icons developed by Cisco years ago. These kind of icons, this is the diagram, it's in a book. If I use these icons, most people around the globe in IT recognize these icons and know what they are. So we typically go with those icons. Network diagrams provide a broad snapshot of my network's physical and logical topology. This helps me for planning. If I need to put a new switch in or replace a switch or firewall, whatever, this gives me a starting point that I know what I'm working on, or a conversation point that I know what I'm working on. Typically, I might have a couple different styles of maps for my network. The one on the left is a physical topology. This shows physically what is connected to what. It might even go down so far as to say this port, this is port 22, this is port 23, this is port 24, but physically show me what is connecting where. I might also have another map called a logical topology that shows me the same network, but it shows it to me differently. I'm not so concerned now about where all the wiring and the ports go. I'm like, hey, there's things here to connect this. I'm more concerned about the IP addresses and maybe the data flow and the VLANs and the work groups. I'm worried about logically how things are moving in my network. So I might have these two maps might be for the same network, but they're showing me two different aspects of it. Almost like looking through different lenses on this view to see what it looks like. The wiring schematic is almost like that first one I showed you, that physical topology. It's literally showing me what goes to where, what plugs where, what plugs where. Again, that's handy to know when you're troubleshooting. What should be in port 32, what should be in port 12. And the logical that I showed you a little bit earlier, showing more of the data flow. What IP address, what VLAN should it be in, what subnet should be in, what work group is this in, okay? I also have rack diagrams showing me my equipment racks in my closet and what is where. And here's just two different samples I found. Here's my console, here's some servers, here's some router, here's a switch. As I look at my rack, this is documented what is where, that I know what's in here if I have a problem. I might even have labeled, this is this customer, this is this customer, this is this floor, this is this floor, okay? And there is actually drawing programs out there to help me draw my rack diagrams, okay? Years ago, this would have been like, wow, I never knew this. There is programs out there to help you do all this because you need to do this. You need documentation of everything. All right, that's a good place to stop again. We'll come back and talk operating procedures next.